Thank you for joining us today at Prophecy in the News. I'm your host, Kevin Clarkson. I'm joined in the studio today by Doc Marquis. He's an old friend of our ministry, but he has recently just been with us in programs, and we want to welcome you again today.
Thank you.
We have introduced you, but let me do it for those that may not have caught earlier shows of you with us. You were raised in a family that's connected to the Illuminati. Christ saved you as a young man, and you've had a ministry of teaching the Bible, especially with an emphasis on prophecy. But from the side of being able to expose some of the things that are going on really in the dark work of Satan.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this now ever since you mentioned I was a born-again Christian on April 15, 1979, and I severed all ties with the Order of the Illuminati at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when I tell you I was completely disowned from everyone and everything, oh yeah. It's you leave the Illuminati alive, if you're fortunate, you can never look back.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you ever have to fear for any kind of reprisal, or does it something in a
Not
distant
from them.
rearview mirror?
It doesn't bother me in the least, and I can
You're
tell you
safe in the
why.
Lord.
Well, that's just it. You see, if this is point A, the exact split second in time you and I are living in, and somewhere down the road is point B when God calls me home, one way or the other, it's if through the rapture or through a natural or an unnatural death, well, no matter how powerful Satan or the Illuminati believe they are, they can't alter what God has foreseen by 1 second more or less. So I've got nothing to worry about. I'm going to leave on time.
Well, amen. Well, I've got to say, I met you a few years ago, but I remember hearing about this guy, and he was from the Illuminati, and seemed a little bit intimidating or scary, and I met you, and there you were. Just,
you're bigger than I am.
You're such a pleasant, happy person, and I say that because I have a friend that was raised in the PLO as a former terrorist, and he's come to Christ, but he's about 6'4" and always wears solid black, and black hair, and when he walks in, you're kind of going, is this guy really converted or not?
Yeah.
You know, he's got the appearance. So, but what a treat to have you. We're going to be talking today about really the Antichrist and some of that magic, mystic rituals that are sort of a part of the whole Illuminati ceremonies, even the Bohemian Grove.
Oh, yeah.
Which some of our listeners may be familiar with. Mm-hmm. We have shows yet to do about the Olympic Games that they will want to catch. Mm-hmm. But let's just kind of dive in. You teach about the arrival of the Antichrist.
Yes, you know, because right now we're living in a prophetical time in which you and I both know this is it. This is the end times that the Bible is telling us about. I mean, it's close.
It seems in every way.
You know, and I don't know about you, but I know in the last 5-7 years, I've been sensing something in the air, as they say. You can tell something's coming.
You just kind of sense it, and it does. That's a good word.
And it's inside, but you just
it's
can't
atmospheric, too.
Yeah, you just can't put your finger on it. But you know, whatever it is, it's big. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, maybe some of us are beginning to sense the preeminent arrival of this final rapture. It could very well be that, because the way things are lining up prophetically speaking right now, we are at that point in biblical history in which we're going to see the fulfillment of the final prophecies. And then, of course, that's it. The final rapture, and then the world is handed over to the Antichrist for the next 7 years. I mean, it's startling. It's expected, but still, all these things make you wonder. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of the majesty and wonder of God. You know, you think you've got it right, you hope you got it right, you're sensing things and all this other stuff, but is it here? Are we right? And all this, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, the most dramatic appearance of the Antichrist I know of in Scriptures in Revelation 13, where John sees a beast rising up out of the sea.
Yeah. And you know the funny thing, in the Order of the Illuminati, I was told back in 69, this is 69 now, that he had been born.
1969.
Yeah.
So we're talking 48 years ago.
Yeah. Now, understand, in the Illuminati, they don't call him the Antichrist.
He's probably the believer savior.
He's referred to as the king of the despots.
The king of the despots.
Yeah, a despot, a low, worm, evil, filthy, disgusting type of individual, you know, despotic. You know, he is referred to as the king of all those type of people. Yeah. Antichrist, that is a Christian term. It's not a term you found in the Illuminati. And when we look at the scriptures very carefully, just as you pointed out in Revelation chapter 3 and also Daniel chapter 11 especially, that gives a good description of, what you can expect to see from this individual. And it is an interesting fact. When we look at the Illuminati playing cards, we find out a lot of information about the Antichrist, among other things.
Now let's mention back up about the playing cards.
Yeah.
We've discussed those before, but some may not have heard that.
Well, the Illuminati playing cards, it's supposed to be just a regular card game, like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, things like that. What people didn't realize, that in 1982 when these were released, and that was just 3 years I had been saved. And when I first saw those cards, I knew what they were. These were the well laid out plans of the Order of the Illuminati to give all their followers and people in it, a warning what to expect. This is going to happen, get out of the way, prepare yourself for this and all this other stuff.
Kind of coded inside information.
Exactly. And you have to read a lot of the cards carefully also to understand what's really going on. But these cards also, a lot of them refer to things that you and I would understand to have been mentioned in the Bible, especially when it came to the Antichrist himself, the type of character he'd be, how he would be received, eventually as, a charismatic person at first, and then the new Messiah. And there are cards that say that, exactly. And you could see how he's portrayed and everything. And so what we see in those cards line up perfectly, as I said, with Revelation chapter 13 and, of course, Daniel chapter 11.
Well, he's described as a ferocious beast, I guess. And, he's also described in Daniel in some very interesting ways.
Well, yeah.
He changes times and seasons.
And he does not worship the God of his fathers.
Right.
He is obviously a
god of fortresses is mentioned.
Forces. And that's part of one of the names of the ancient gods and of Lucifer. So we know by that he's worshiping Lucifer himself.
He's a devil worshiper.
And remember, it also says the God of his father. So he's Jewish by lineage.
Right.
Because that is the God of his fathers.
Yeah.
It goes back to Revelation chapter 2 and 3 where it says, that they profess themselves to be Jews, but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan.
Right.
He's just like the head of the Order of the Illuminati, this soon-to-arrive Antichrist figure. Now, interesting enough, if we take it and study that carefully enough, we find out whoever this Antichrist figure is at first a politically unknown individual, but seemingly has an overnight meteoric rise. He's able to solve seemingly all the problems of the world, and he's going to be hailed as the new Messiah, especially since he makes that 7-year peace treaty with Israel.
Brings Middle East peace.
Yeah, and no one's been able to do that. So this would be, the biggest culmination of his career, if you want, to look at it that way. But we know it gets much worse once he enters into the third temple and sits upon the throne of David and proclaims himself to be as God.
2 Thessalonians 2.
Yes.
So there you have the biggest blasphemy of all history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is beyond, the pale. But this is not unusual. And the funny thing is, all these things, believe it or not, are also believed by most members in the Order of the Masons. See,
is that right?
Well, yeah, you see, Masonry does not go all the way back to the building of the tower, the Temple of Solomon, as they themselves will tell you. That's not the truth. The first historic temple we know that was built was the Aberdeen Lodge in Scotland in 1717. The long and short of it, the rich people, the people with money, took over the temples, kicked all the genuine stonemasons out, and became accepted masons.
All right.
That's the long and short of it. But it would be about 7 decades later, in 1786, when Dr. Adam Weishaupt sent his right-hand man, Baron Adolf von Koenig, to meet with the 23 representatives of the Masonic world at that time. Now, after meeting together for 30 different sessions, those representatives signed a blood contract vowing to follow the 7-part plan of the Order of the Illuminati to create a new world order.
What was their motivation for that? Was it that they so believed that that was their destiny, or did they receive some kind of kickback or
More than anything else, it was power.
pursuit of power?
It would have been power more than anything else, because these were rich people to begin with, noblemen. They were learned. They knew the arts and everything else. But for them, it really was all about the power. And ever since 1786, the Illuminati have been working through the Masonic temples. They never had to build their own meeting lodges or anything. No, they've been working through the Masonic lodges to this very day. And if you go into the actual books of the Masons, now I have more than 100 of their own books in my personal library, and quite a number of them are coded, but I can read them. And when you read through the books themselves, and I did a DVD on this, and I used nothing but Masonic literature to prove this. Not only do they want nothing to do with Christ himself, they deny him, and they identify their God as Lucifer. But you don't find these things out until you get
Upper levels.
Yes, you see.
I rather suspect there are a lot of lower level Masons that have no idea.
Oh,
what
from first
they're
to the
affiliated
third
with.
degree, I mean, that's like walking into kindergarten. You know, you're in the Blue Lodge, and the first degree is known as the entered apprentice. You've just entered in as an apprentice, per se. And then there's the accepted Mason and the Master Mason. The first 3 degrees, as I said, you're just walking into kindergarten. Even Pike himself, he wrote in a letter once that said, wait a second.
Albert Pike.
Yeah, General Albert Pike himself. He said, you may repeat it to the brethren of the 31st, 32nd, and 33rd degree, that the Masonic religion should be held by all of us initiates in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. That's the doctrine of the Illuminati, the Luciferian doctrine. You go, as it says, when I created this DVD, I took all those books. I pulled everything out that was related to all the questions people have asked. You know, is it really a religion to begin with? They themselves categorically state in, I don't even know how many books, that Masonry is a religion. They state it is a religion now. That it has nothing to do with Christianity. It is not based upon Christianity, because if it was Christian, it would be something else. They also reject the teachings of the Bible. They think of the Bible, believe it or not, just as so much window dressing. In other words, if you live in America and you have a Masonic lodge, well, the window dressing would be the Bible. But if you live, let's say, in the Middle East, the window dressing would be the Quran. It just depends.
It's part of your culture.
Right. So we'll dress it up, make it look good. But that's it. It's just window dressing. It means nothing to them.
It deceives, though, with appearance.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? You know, it gives you that deception. And on and on and on. The books themselves damn those people who are in the Masonic lodges. Because if you, again, when we go through the books, the only way of salvation, of guaranteed salvation, is to learn about the light of Masonry. Because the light is what will lead you on at the end.
Satan is such a counterfeiter. He masquerades as an angel of light, doesn't he?
Well, it goes even further than this, because a lot of the Masons, well, as I said, the Masonic lodges are used by the Illuminati to work through. But that's not the only place they work through. They have this one place in California, you might have heard of it. It's known as the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
Right. It's what I call the Illuminati's version of a summer camp. It's where, you know, some of the most powerful people in this world meet for 2 or 3 weeks every summer to discuss the new plans that they have that's going to affect you and I. And at this particular summer camp, and it is true, I've seen this before, there is a 40-foot owl in the grove itself, in which they are holding these ancient ceremonies. One in particular is known as the cremation of care.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did do a DVD on that, and the one thing that I can definitely tell you is that the cremation of care is a genuine occult ritual. I broke it down, and I showed the people just what constitutes a genuine ritual, and we compare it to the cremation of care, and every single spot just adds up. It's all the same thing. But it's here that through the summer, as it says, that they will make some of the biggest plans ever. Now that I think of it, the idea for the Manhattan Project began at the Bohemian Grove.
Is that right?
Yes. Some of your presidents, quite a number of them were there. Papa Bush and Baby Bush.
This last one?
Mm-hmm. I know Ronald Reagan was there.
I know he's attended.
Mm-hmm. Tricky Ricky Richard Nixon. Carter was there. And this is where some of the most important decisions in life is made. It was at the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, these are key leaders and world players, aren't they?
Oh, even kings have been there, princes, world leaders, as you pointed out. And it was there also that Ronald Reagan agreed not to run against Richard Nixon, you know, for the presidency that time around. Of course, Bill Clinton, and this, as I said, this is where some of the greatest decisions are made by an average of somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500 people in the order of the Illuminati. The bigwigs, the power brokers, will meet. And
this is very much a secure meeting. Public is not allowed. No press.
Oh my goodness, a lot of people
Security
have
patrol.
tried to access down the main road into it. They're always stopped. If they go beyond a certain point, they will be arrested. The only person that successfully made it through once was Alex Jones. And he tried again, and he got his friends that were with him got arrested.
He did once, I think, get some footage, though.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt of it. But
And I've seen, I don't remember who accosted. David Gergen was an interesting fellow. He's on CNN sometimes, but he was an advisor to the Republicans, and then he flipped and became an advisor to the Democrats. And he was accosted on the street by a reporter, and they brought up, well, you were at the Bohemian Grove, and he stopped just short and for a second looked scared to death. And then he said, I don't know where you get your information, but that's none of your business. And he turned and walked away.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Papa Bush that on TV, he was asked the same thing. And he says, well, I'd tell you about it, but it's a secret, so I can't. You know, and he just kept dodging the question. But
yeah, it's super confidential.
But this cremation of care ceremony does call for a sacrifice and everything.
Of a human.
Yeah, well, you see, the one thing Alex Jones missed upon this, he didn't understand the ritual. This is a very well-formulated ritual. It's definitely a solid, and yeah, this is a ritual that you could sacrifice someone to Moloch if you wanted to. Yeah. See,
That's
he called,
creepy.
see, the thing is, he mistook the owl to be Moloch. That's not Moloch. That's the bird of wisdom that belongs to Pallas Athena. You know, but since a bird represents knowledge, wisdom, the Illuminati took that symbol because if you remember, from Latin, the word Illuminati means the bearers of light, the wise ones. That's why they have that owl as its symbol. And that owl was specifically chosen to be the totem animal representation of Lucifer, light and wisdom, the bird of light and wisdom, so on and so forth.
Well, let me just interrupt us right here. We're talking to Doc Marquis today, former member of the Illuminati, saved gloriously by Jesus as a young man and pulled out of that, but sharing based on his knowledge of the occult and research as a Bible prophecy scholar now for over 30 years, 40 years. And he's sharing with us about the Illuminati and some of their rituals. We actually are offering 4 of his products today as DVD sets. This is the Arrival of the Antichrist, which we started the program speaking about this whole issue and how the man of sin will be revealed, the final world dictator, set up really by this whole process of these nefarious dark players in our world. This is several hours of teaching. And then following that up, magic, mysticism, and masonry, about some of the rituals, spells, ceremonies, etc. that are involved, and even ties into the upper levels of masonry and why the lower levels need to be aware of this. And then, as we just discussed, the Bohemian Grove takes place every year in Northern California, and quite a bit. Each of these is several hours of presentations with photos and all kinds of pictorial information. And then one we'll get to next, but the Protocols of Zion, which tries to paint the world under control of a Jewish conspiracy, which fuels some of these and goes the wrong way, because we do know that Israel is in God's prophetic plan, and so there's a higher word than anything that man planned. But these are offered, and each one of these is $19.95 plus shipping and handling, or we're offering the 4 as a bundle for $74.95. As always, you go to our website, prophecyinthenews.com, or call the 800 number on your screen. While you're there, check out Doc's soon-to-be-published book, The Final Rapture. This will actually come out into stores and be mailed shipping out in October, and it is about the biblical rapture. It's a great case that we, the saints of God, are raptured before the tribulation begins. I wrote the foreword, so you know how I feel about that. Anyway, let's jump back to either, we've got 5 minutes or so. Let's consider maybe anything else you want to say about the Bohemian Grove and then the Protocols of Zion.
Well, as we're saying, the Bohemian Grove itself is where 2,000 to 2,500 of the most powerful political brokers and members of the Illuminati will meet every year for 2-3 weeks.
It's an international crowd, correct?
It is international. It literally scans the whole globe. And the one thing
it's all men, right? There's no women.
I was about to say, women are not allowed there.
Yeah.
The Illuminati, as I explained on a radio show not too long ago, is still, for the most part, an all-boys club. You know, it's a good old boys club, no women's allowed. You know, just like Spanky and our gang, the He-Man Women's Haters Club, you know, that thing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why Hillary Clinton did not become the president. Yeah, everyone was saying it was going to be her. And as soon as I knew she was going to run, I knew, well, if she is the front runner, whoever the front runner for the Republicans are, that's going to be a champion. Yeah, I knew it. You know, she may be one of them. She and everyone else may think that, okay, it's time for a female president. No, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
So,
you know, Margaret Thatcher, the British mindset, they were ready for a female leader. But the Illuminati would not give up the most powerful seat in the world to a female.
Especially such an ambitious one.
You know, and in this case, they couldn't stop the person who got it. It was Donald Trump. That's what I love most about it. Their person, they want to give it to, and the person that they didn't want it to, they lost it to anyways.
Well, you know, we know from the Bible that their end game is going to come about. But at this present moment, it looks like they've had to take a step back, even themselves, kind of by the way things have tilted.
That's exactly what's happening.
And I think it's a church's opportunity to continue to pray for just a crack in the door for some revival, for an awakening, And I sure urge people to do that.
Amen.
God's plan's going to happen. We can't stop it. We don't want to.
We've got a 4 to 16-year window of opportunity here right now to stand up as the children of God, more than likely the final and last remnant that he said he would give us, and speak up for Christianity, for Christ, for his word right now.
Amen.
And better than ever before. And we've got to take the opportunity now while we still got the chance and the time.
Well, Doc, in a minute or so, what would you tell us just about the protocols of Zion, any bearing it has?
The protocols of Zion are not what they appear to be. Most people believe it represents a Jewish Zionist conspiracy, and it doesn't. What most people don't realize, it's a coded document. That's an Illuminati document you're reading. Those are actual meetings, minutes of the meetings of the Illuminati themselves that was stolen by a child lady who worked for a high-level ranking Mason who was in the Illuminati. That's how it came into existence. But what no one realized, it was coded. People nowadays are reading it and saying, no, and I'm going, no. That's coded. You don't know what the true topic is. Once you do, it's a historical nightmare of horrors that haven't hit yet, but their plans state they will do.
Well, you explore that in depth, don't you, in this presentation?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, where do you see things going if we don't have a spiritual awakening and we continue on the, train track toward globalism? What do you see happening immediately?
Well, I guarantee you that going by the ancient timelines, I remember that the Illuminati had plans and everything between 2028 and 2030. This is when, according to those timelines, they'll have everything in the back of their pockets. Now that means they could now move at a whim. So I'm thinking, when I consider Vice President Mike Pence and Donald Trump can represent a 4 to 16 year
window
of opportunity, well, when that window would be closed, it fits right in with that 2028, 2030 timeline.
Okay. Well, I've got to take it right there, but thank you for being with us, and thank you for being with us. Hope you'll join us next time for Prophecy in the News. We want to urge you to realize you don't have to fear these things or live in dread. Christ came to save us, not only from this present evil world, but for eternity. Call on his name and keep looking up.